Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with entrepreneur, author, and podcaster Michelle Passoff. She is the author of Lighten Up, Free Yourself from Clutter, and a podcast host of Decluttering 55 Plus. She has crisscrossed the United States and gone around the world and back, teaching how cleaning clutter is not just about being neat and tidy, but is a navigational tool for creating a life well lived. She boasts a diverse array of roles, from New York City Public Relations Consultant to owner of a estate sales company in Florida, and even a partner in farms that cultivated the humble potato. Enjoy this interview.
Okay, Michelle, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So before we get into your life as an author and a podcaster, I want to know, we've come out of this COVID period. How did you survive that 2-3 year period of the pandemic, and how did it subsequently change you?
Well, first of all, personally, I borrowed off half of my house, and I had half of it renovated during the pandemic, and the other half I lived in. I moved all of my kitchen, my refrigerator, and I put up tables and a hot plate and a coffee maker and a microwave, and I put it in my living room, and that became my new kitchen. And then we have 2 bedrooms in the front of the house, so we moved into one of them, and the rest of it we stashed stuff we were keeping, and we sold everything we own, one item at a time at our front door, and we redecorated. So at the end of the pandemic, if there is an end to the pandemic, I had my house just the way I wanted it to look, all with continuity throughout. All the colors matched, the floors were all great. So I was very productive on the home front during the pandemic. And in addition, I decided that I wanted to make a difference with people voting, and I didn't really care whether they were Republicans or Democrats. If they were Americans and they had registered to vote, I wanted to encourage people to exercise that right. So I started calling, and I thought the best way to do that was through a music video, and I'm not really music-oriented. I can't sing or play an instrument, have no background in music, but I am creative. So I got on the phone, started Googling people in the area around which I live for singers, songwriters, music video producers, and video producers, even got a law firm on board, and marketing people and website designers, and I convinced all these people who I did not know and who didn't know each other to get on Zoom and create original song to put to a music video that would compel people to vote. And long story short, at the end of 3 months, we had a 3-minute music video that launched on YouTube, got 223,000 viewers. I know that it was seen across the country because I got calls from Miami and California and Texas asking me to use the video in their communities. So that's another way that I spent my pandemic. And I come out of that with an appreciation for the merit and virtues of collaborating.
Wow, that's a great story. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day, and one of the kids asks you, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that child?
Okay, I am what's called a clutter consultant, and maybe in a more broad terms, a professional organizer, although I do distinguish between organization and decluttering. So I consult people with assessing what they have in their physical environments and letting go of what they don't want and need and use and love, so that what they have around them is going to be used not only to make them neater and tidier, but as navigational tools so that they can move through their days and their weeks and their months and their projects and their goals without anything in the way. Anything in the way would be clutter, so we let go of that and achieve goals in life and have less stress in the process.
So when you were that age in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a tap dancer.
Excellent. I love it. So did you ever tap dance?
Well, when I was in the 5th grade, yes, I went to all kinds of dance schools. I went to creative dance school. I went to tap dance school. I went to ballet. So I wanted to be what they call a hoofer. I don't know where I came at that from, but I still have a picture of me in that nice blue and pink little crinoline, tutu, and with my black tap shoes on. And I must have really liked that because that was my recollection, is I wanted to be a tap dancer.
So take me back to where you were born and raised and how this desire to help people declutter and to kind of prioritize their life. How did this become a focal point, become your career?
Well, I grew up in a place called Englishtown, New Jersey. And New Jersey, for a small state, has more towns than I can imagine. When people tell me they're from a certain town in New Jersey, you never know where it is, even though, I lived there in my adolescence and infancy, and there's just so many towns. But it's a center part of the state, about an hour and a half, not even quite an hour and a half outside of New York City. So I had the best of country life and the best of the city life, because we often went into the city for the theater or shopping. So I was accustomed to going into the theater, and then in the country, you just ran around in the woods and by the lake. Then I went to Syracuse University, and I have a degree in magazine journalism, and I became a public relations consultant. I worked in New York City for 30 years, but 15 of those were for major public relations agencies that worked with international corporations in their behalf with the media, to encourage them to write stories that portrayed whatever it was they wanted to communicate to the public. So the first part of my career was convincing people what to buy. But over the course of all of those years, I was really interested. I was the first generation of women that really, was in the so-called women's liberation movement. I had more choices of what I could do with my life than, the generations before me. So, I had to decide, was I going to be a mother? Was I going to work? Was I going to be a mother and work? And you had choices. And I took a lot of personal growth courses over 15 years to define for myself who I was going to be. And at the end of 15 years, I said to myself, you should decide. You should come to a conclusion. So the conclusion I came to is that get anything out of the way, get rid of your clutter, get rid of emotional, spiritual, mental stuff that stops you from knowing who you are and having a clear path to achieving it. So that was a clutter cleaning process. And I know what it was. A friend of mine had so much clutter they were going to throw her out of her New York City apartment. She was going to be expelled from her apartment for health reasons. She had an unhealthy apartment. And she invited 20 of her friends over to help her declutter, so she saved herself. And a light bulb went off in my head, and I said, lighten up, free yourself from clutter, create the space for miracles while you free yourself from too much stuff. So the very next day, no kidding, I'm not exaggerating, I hung signs on bus stops up and down Broadway in Manhattan advertising clutter cleaning consulting. And believe it or not, I started getting doctors and lawyers and teachers and old people and young people calling me to ask me to provide these services. So I was a self-made clutter consultant. And eventually what I did was I created a class that I could teach that was less expensive than hiring me as to come into your home and help you. And one of those classes, there was a reporter for the New York Times that attended, unannounced. And at the end of the class, she told me she wanted to write an article about me. And at 9:01, the day that article hit the newsstands, I was called by an agent from the William Morris Agency and a publisher from an editor that eventually worked for Harper Perennial, which were the publishers of my first book, Lighten Up, Free Yourself from Clutter. So my path was from, the executive suites on Madison Avenue to everybody's closets and attics and basements, kind of around the world. I've traveled around the world and back helping people let go.
So who's been a hero for you?
Who's going to what?
Who has been a hero for you?
Who's been a hero for me? That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I really don't know who's the hero for me. My husband is the hero for me because there's nothing that I do that he doesn't support me in 100%. So I would say he's my hero.
So if you could meet one person alive on the planet right now that you find inspirational or fascinating, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I think he's, I don't mean to get political on these shows, and I'm not even saying relative to his politics. I'm saying relative to a way of being in life that is elegant. I find him, to be a gracious human being in a leadership position, and I admire that.
Yeah, I do too. I'm actually reading Michelle Obama's book now, and it's fascinating to hear who he was early on and how it just stayed true. So it's fascinating. Let me ask you this. Every day you wake up and do your work and help people out, what is your motivation? What gets you out of bed? What makes you who you are?
Well, at the moment, I am writing a book called Decluttering 55 Plus. And after many, many years of working with anybody who had any kind of clutter in their home, what I call conventional clutter, too many papers, clothes, and stuff in your garage and attics and basements. For 14 years after, going around the world and back consulting people in that genre, I opened an estate sale company, which means that I helped people get rid of everything and sell the house too. So we sold everything in the house and we sold the house. So I did that for 14 years. And at the end of the pandemic, we wound down from that. We sold that company. I went to my desk, and I didn't even have time to say now what before I said Decluttering 55 Plus. And what motivates me to write that book, to do a podcast called Decluttering 55 Plus with Michelle Passoff, to create the website, www.decluttering55plus.com, is I don't bother unless I have something to say worth listening to. And what I'd like to encourage people to listen to is, first and foremost, of course, clean the physical clutter, but moreover, there's areas of life ahead of us in when you're either approaching retirement or in retirement that you'd rather sweep under the carpet and do it another day or never. And those areas of life include health and fitness, writing a memoir, healing broken relationships or creating new relationships, deciding where you're going to live next, what are you going to do if you stop doing one career and now you have 30 years ahead of you to do what. So live where, do what, how to get your financial papers in order, and even making your final arrangements. So these are not areas of life that are easy, and they can confound and confront you, which is what I call unconventional clutter. Anything that is confronting and confounding, which stops you in your track because you just don't know. I'm encouraging people to learn about, clarify, get in action, and get it done. And that is the new kind of clutter that I'm saying that the over 55 people, the time is now for them to address that. So what wakes me up in the morning is the whole challenge of being able to say that in a way that is inspiring to others and moves them into action.
What's been one of your favorite success stories?
I think that music video that I made. You know, if you're talking about my own personal success story, I would say I loved that project. We did that music video to compel people to vote with no budget. So, and with nobody I knew. Nobody knew me, nobody knew each other, and create something from absolutely nothing with no money. One guy in Maine contributed his stimulus check, so that was like $1,200. That's what we had to do a 3-minute music video that made an impact in the American election. I'm really proud of that, and you know, everybody working on the project, everybody has their own quirks and everything like that. It was really giving people the space to be who they are and not being detracted from what I was focusing on, and at the end of the day, coming up with a product that everybody was proud of. You can see that video. It's called Voice Your Vote 2020, and I wish and it's on YouTube. I wish I could change it to 2024, but I don't know how to do that, and I'm on to a different thing. Decluttering 55 Plus is my new jam, and I'm really encouraging people over the age of 55 to address areas of life that are confronting and confounding and get clear and get in action. And I'm doing that. If you go to my website, www.decluttering55plus.com, click the Let's Connect button and sign up so that I can keep you in touch with what's going on with my podcast. It's going to launch in May. I don't know when this is going to air, but it's going to launch in May, and be a part of the community, because the whole idea is not to have all the answers, but to get in communication about, what you want to get done and not to have to do it alone. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to be an adult sometimes, too, and I'm intent on creating a community that will support people in creating a legacy, not a mess.
So, Michelle, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm creative. I think I'm confronting. I don't let a whole lot just slip by me without taking notice of it or acknowledging that it's there. I don't let too many elephants in the room languish there. I'm generous. I'm fun. I'm not lazy. I'm in action, I would say.
So if anyone out there wants to grab onto your program, learn more about you, your book, anything about your world, where can they go?
They can go to decluttering55plus.com. Click on the Let's Connect button, and you can fill out a form and let me know you're out there, and I'll let you know what I'm up to, when I'm up to it. If I'm going around, the country, I'll be doing roundtable discussions with folks over the age of 55 about areas of life that they find challenging, so that we can clarify things and people can get grounded and certain about what they want to do that will express themselves while they're alive and kind of tie up the loose ends for when they're gone.
Wonderful. This has been fascinating. Michelle, thank you so much for your story, for your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.